Why and how did this video become so popular? Well, it turns out a third of you think I'm an autistic bastard wasting both your time and mine. Some of you think that I don't know how a reboot is supposed to work, but the other 2/3 of you seem to really enjoy and agree with my opinions. That's 2/3 over 1, so... Whoops! Now let's keep this river flowing by ranting about not a reboot, but the continuing downfall of an ongoing series, which is... I really don't want to watch Series 3 of Postman Pat. I really don't. But you have to rant about it. People have been asking you to do it. Well, I don't feel like doing it. But you have to do it. Otherwise, everyone will keep asking you for months. Just do it. Do it. Do it! Alright, I'll do it. Fucking hell. Postman Pat was a British animated children's show created by John Cunliffe, who you may recognise for also creating and starring in Rosie and Jim. The show is about an ordinary postman going through normal slice-of-life situations as he delivers letters and parcels all over the fictional English village of Greendale, along with his cat, Jess. For some reason. Am I the only one who finds it a bit weird to take a cat on your postal rounds? The show started in 1981 and featured stop-motion animation from British animation legend Ivor Wood. You know, the Herbs, Paddington Bear, the Wombles.
Yeah. Watch a black and white movie sometime.
What I find really unique about this show is that, unlike shows like Thomas or Fireman Sam or maybe even Pingu, where they usually have a moderate conflict for each episode, or showing us the stress and hard work of a certain industry, or just showing us fun, fast-paced animation, Postman Pat is more relaxing and calmer. Just seeing Pat's van drive through the nice sets of the countryside, talking to the friendly villagers, and settling with everyday problems that don't really seem to go over the top, like, say, travelling through thick fog, finding Katie's lost doll, sledging up and down a hill to deliver a parcel, or catching a magpie hen from taking Pat's keys. It's kind of a slice-of-life sort of show, just letting you admire the scenery, enjoy the lovely music, watch the humorous, charming animation and storytelling, and meet the kind people of Greendale. After nearly 10 years of absence, and with some hand-drawn direct-to-video educational tapes in between,
"Hurrah!" said Tom.
The show returned with 4 25-minute-long special episodes and a second season. Now, I don't know whether to call the 90s series the best part of the show or just as good as the first season. The animation was smoother, cleaner, and all around better. The scenery was more colourful than before. The stories were a little more in-depth and more interesting. The music and dialogue was still great to listen to. The new characters were just as enjoyable as the others. And adding Carol Boyd to the voice cast was a great idea. Originally, all the characters, including females, were all voiced by Ken Barry. Isn't it fascinating when just a single voice actor can do a cluster ton of different voices? Actors like John Alderton, Jimmy Hibbert, Frank Welker, Rob Rackstraw, Keith Wickham. I think Ken would have managed to fit himself onto the list.
But he's making a dickens of a racket and endangering life and limb.
Oh dear, I'll never find them all. Not in this long grass.
That's a funny watch. It doesn't look like a watch at all to me.
My collection of soldiers. Gone, all gone, what? Marched off without a sound.
Hold it steady! Not that way, the other way. I said the other way!
But, as impressive as that is, I think it was for the better for Cowboy to voice all the female characters and children characters, from Postman Pat and the Toy Soldiers onwards.
Oh, what's this, Alf? How am I to get through if you block the road with your tractor?
Hello, Pat. We're talking plants as well. And we can help you put our tubs in your van. He's hurt his back and has to stay in bed. I'm taking the post today. It's all arranged with Pencaster. Oh, but Pat, just think of all the cars and coaches and the litter.
So yeah, Season 2 was one of the best seasons of the show in my opinion. But you all know where this is going. Starting from Season 3, 7 years after Season 2 ended, everything went downhill. And the hill went steeper and steeper with every new season, until eventually the hill was at a 90-degree angle and everything came crashing down to the ground. We'll talk about this later. Let's address the first problem with the 2003 series. The series didn't need to continue. The series would have ended nicely after the last episode of Season 2. All the characters were there, Pat was driving the post bus, they were having a special fancy dress party, which was kind of a rarity in the series by this point, and the end of the episode was playing the same music from Postman Pat and the Tuba. If the series had ended right here and just left the show entirely, I wouldn't have a problem with it. It seems like a really fitting way to round off the whole series. But no, some people over at the BBC thought to themselves, "Alright lads, we're doing a grand job. We've nearly got all the programmes we need for this new CBeebies channel. Although, we still need one more show to fill in 15 minutes. So, you know what? I'd say we should make either a reboot or a continuation of an old show we haven't aired in years. You lads got any ideas? What about Andy Pandy? No, we already got that one. Muffin the Mule? Got it. Bill and Ben? Got it. Fireman Sam? I'll put a pin on that one. Noddy? No. Okie Doke? No. Spider? No. Wurzel Gummidge? No. Pingu? No. Williams Wishword? No. Postman Pat? You, my good man, are a genius. Where do I even begin with Series 3 to 5? Well, I'll just tell you the basics first. The theme song remix, while rather nice, is not really as good as the original. The animation doesn't suit the series. Well, okay, I will congratulate Crossgrove Hall, you know, these guys, for doing what they could with the show, but the faster paced animation doesn't really work for a more laid back sort of show. The new music from Simon Woodgate is nowhere near as good as the original music by Brian Daly. Plus two, in the original, they only played music during 4 or 5 scenes in each episode, and the lack of music helped us to admire the country settings and relaxing nature of the show more. But here, they play music throughout the entire 15 minutes. It gets irritating after a while. The voice acting is, at best, average. I know Ken and Cowell were trying their best, but Ken sounds rather tired here.
Mushroom, olives, peppers, cheese. What's this one?
The new characters are alright. Not great, but not as memorable as the older ones. But what irks me is that they got rid of a few characters to make way for the new characters or the children. Yeah, Granny Dryden, Miss Hubbard, George Lancaster, Major Forbes, Peter Fogg, Sam Waldron. All of them have disappeared, kind of, with no explanations whatsoever. And, aren't a few of these characters kind of important?
Folks are delighted when he comes around, for it always will save a long journey to town from the valley. If he cut out his service, oh, he'd be terribly missed.
Speaking of, one of the biggest problems with this series for me is that they focus way too much on the child characters at the school. Well, I mean, I get it. This is a show for CBeebies, a toddler channel, and I do understand why they did this, to appeal more to the children watching the show, but a lot of toddlers or younger kids, including myself back in the day, watched the original 2 seasons back in the day, and the children characters were side characters compared to Pat or Ted Glenn or Mrs. Goggins. And guess what? Nobody complained about it. The same goes to shows like Thomas or Bob the Builder or even Fireman Sam. Sort of. There were kid characters in those shows, but they, or the situations they got up to, were not the main focuses of those shows. The focuses were usually seeing these adult characters working at their jobs, seeing Fireman Sam rescuing people, seeing Bob and Wendy mend something, seeing Thomas and his crew working on his branch line. But because Postman Pat is being broadcast on CBeebies, we have to spend 2/3 of every episode with
Mr. Pringle, Mr. Pringle, Mr. Pringle, Mr. Pringle, Mr. Pringle, Mr. Pringle, Mr. Pringle.
that. Also, is it me, or does the actress for Sarah Gilbertson have a constant stuffed nose when she's voicing her?
It's my mum's birthday today, and I want to get her something really special. But I can't think of anything.
Here's another noticeable problem with the new series. The writing has definitely been downgraded from the original. Even though the stories and writing in the original was simple and was still aimed towards younger children, I like to think that the original series isn't much of a toddler show, but a family show. A show that both toddlers and parents can enjoy watching together. Why? Because there were some elements in the narration or the dialogue that only adults would understand, and toddlers don't seem to mind it. Yeah, to all of those bastards who kept spamming me 24/7 that I was critically analysing brainless toddler shows and that I was wasting my life. Well, what do you think of those statements you've just said after hearing dialogue like this?
It was a quiet evening for Pat. Sarah was at the WI.
It's that post office. They're going all continental. Something to do with this common market business. Have a glass of my best rhubarb wine at bedtime.
And I don't like Dad's gun. It makes such a bang.
The sheep have got into the clover field. It'll kill them if they eat too much.
They literally said the word kill in a Postman Pat episode, implying that the concept of death has been in the series pretty much since it began. And this would explain why Granny Dryden isn't in the series anymore. But the new series doesn't have that type of writing or storytelling. Instead of, say, finding out the history of Garner Hall, or dealing with the stressful increases in mail delivery, the stories are just as simple as delivering pizzas, or preparing for a train inspector's visit, or completely ripping off an episode of Fireman Sam, or...
Jess? Meow. I think I'm stuck.
Really? Was there really nothing else you could have come up with? Or were you just giving Russell Howard some material to work with?
But never mind Jess, Pat should be more worried about the filthy way Farmer Alf gets him out of a tree.
Come on then. Let's be having it.
Here's another thing. The show doesn't usually have a strong usage of continuity. I mean, nowhere near as much as Thomas the Tank Engine, but it was satisfying to see the occasional small reference to an earlier episode.
Happy birthday. He gave him a walking stick with a handle made from a sheep's horn. He'd made it himself. Try not to put too much weight on it now. Pat's walking stick came in handy.
Is there anything you'd like to order?
Let's have a look. Ah. He chose a digital watch with a musical alarm. When she opened the parcel, she discovered it was Pat's new digital watch, which she had ordered for him from Manchester.
But when the new series tries to put in continuity, it's usually wrong.
It must be hard work visiting your patients without a car, Dr. Gilbertson.
There was a brief line in a Series 1 episode where Dr. Gilbertson stated she already has a car.
Oh dear, my car's in Pencaster being serviced, said the doctor.
Sure, there was also this line from Season 2.
And I was just saying I could do with a new car.
But are you seriously implying that for God knows how long, Dr. Gilbertson has been walking to wherever she needed to go?
Trouble is, she won't start. What you need is an expert. Someone who really knows their stuff.
Why can't Ted fix the engine? No, sure, he can fix the engine in a van, and later on, he will work in a garage in Pencaster, pretty much proving that he can mend the engine to any car, but why not this one?
What you need is an expert. Someone who really knows their stuff.
What about Ajay? He restored the Greendale rocket.
This might be right up his street.
Oh, for God's sake. When has it ever been established that Ajay is good at repairing cars? And yes, he did help mend the Greendale rocket, but that was because Ajay knew a hell of a lot more about steam trains than Ted did. We all know Ajay can fix steam engines, but how do we know he can fix car engines? Again, this is clearly something Ted should be able to already know and do.
It's the old post bus. Hasn't been used for years.
Okay, it's great and all that they actually acknowledge the post bus's existence, but why hasn't it been used for years? Well, it's never explained. They just cut straight to them repainting it into a school bus and... Oh, yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, just lovely. That's just how I like my childhood. Dismantled, and then repainted into something nowhere near as good. Not to mention, there are some elements in either the writing or the editing that I really have to question. For example, the episode Postman Pat Goes Undercover. The fuck are you talking about? That's not even what happens in the episode. Pat isn't going undercover for some special surprise or something. They're just repainting the post bus into a school bus and they all go camping together afterwards. How did everyone screw up something as simple as the title? It should have been called Postman Pat Goes Camping, not something that has nothing to do with the premise. Or what about this? In this part of the story, Jess is accidentally sent over to Pencaster. But when we see Pat trying to deliver the post the next morning, they actually have the balls to reuse stock footage of Pat driving around with Jess, and they just decided to blur Jess out of the shot. Fucking wow. I mean, I thought my editing wasn't all that good, but this? Come on, this is Cosgrove fucking Hall. Couldn't they have spent a few more hours just animating just 4 more seconds of original footage?
Dad's making pizza for everyone.
I hope it's got mushrooms on it.
And tomato. And cheese.
Who the hell wrote the script for this episode? I mean, have you ever been given a pizza that didn't have tomato sauce or cheese on it? Or both?
You've given me an idea. What if everyone found something special about Greendale and buried it under their tree, so when people find them in years to come, they'll know something about our village?
What? I'm sorry, that just doesn't make any sense. You know, at least with a time capsule, the objects are tucked away in a box so the dirt doesn't ruin them. Plus 2, it's usually buried in a place where it's easy to dig, like a plain flat field or a special part of town. Who the hell is going to think to dig up a fully grown tree and either expectedly or unexpectedly find something underneath Kinder Egg style? Time capsules don't work that way. But if you think you've just seen the worst the show has to offer, you haven't seen much yet. Now we come to Special delivery service.
Postman Pat, and his black and white cat. All the birds are singing, and the day is just beginning. Pat feels he's a really happy man.
What the actual hell am I looking at right now? Oh, I know what it is. A formulaic piece of shit with absolutely no thought or effort put into it and only thinks about merchandising and not about storytelling or improving the problems from the 3 seasons before it. Yeah, unfortunately, Postman Pat has gone down the same road as shows like Fireman Sam or Peppa Pig. Instead of giving us enjoyable stories that everyone can enjoy, you know, the reason the original series was made in the first place, the series has now turned into a massive blatant advertisement, trying to advertise as many vehicle toys as possible by forcing Pat to drive everything under the sun. A snowmobile, a lorry, a motorbike, a 4x4, and, Lord forbid, a helicopter and a jet plane. Okay, 1, shouldn't Pat need a license to drive half of these vehicles? 2, how the hell does either Pat or the SDS office keep affording this stuff? And where do they put certain vehicles when they're not using them? And 3, why would Pat, a normal 40-year-old postman from a peaceful village and didn't like a bumpy ride on a tractor and had difficulty using roller skates, would be just perfectly fine with riding in a loud helicopter or a bumpy 4x4. But the biggest problem with the SDS series is why? Why should this type of premise be the selling points for the show? Who thought that it should be a good idea to have Pat be forced away from his postal route in Greendale, fuck off to Pencaster, and do a special delivery in every episode? Yeah, delivering just one special delivery parcel doesn't just happen in every couple of episodes. It happens in every episode of this series. This now makes the show just really formulaic. I never thought I'd ever say this, but I'm actually going to give credit to the previous 3 seasons. At least those episodes didn't try to copy each other's stories, a different story for each episode. But in SDS, it's all the same shit. Every episode begins with Pat doing his usual jobs in Greendale, then Ben calls him for a special delivery, cue the pop song they want to shove down our throats, they tell us what the delivery is, Pat tries to deliver it in either a strange way or a forced way, and then mission accomplished. And unlike the previous 3 seasons, where they at least tried to explain why certain elements, characters, and vehicles appear in the series, they don't tell us diddly squat in SDS. New characters just appear with no introduction or backstory at all, not even the simplest kind for the younger audience. Pat gets a random new vehicle to drive every season, each one being more ridiculous and unsuitable for the series at the last. The series is mostly set in Pencaster now, which looks so similar to Greendale that I almost get them mixed up sometimes. Most of the characters either appear or even have jobs in Pencaster for some reason, even though they clearly still have jobs in Greendale, and they got rid of characters like Katie, Tom, Mrs. Pottage, and Mr. Pringle for no reason. Why did they get rid of Mr. Pringle and replace him with Mrs. Taylor? They don't give us a farewell episode for him, or a reason as to why he isn't around anymore. Just the last episode of Season 6, Mr. Pringle is there. First episode of SDS, Mrs. Taylor is there in his place. And why should Pat be the one to deliver every single one of these special deliveries? He's busy enough already with all the mail route in Greendale. But now you have to have him do special deliveries from a different town on top of all that? What does Pat's boss think about all this? Wouldn't he think that's overkill? Oh, and I'm not exaggerating or anything. Pat has a boss.
Give old Sid a ring in Pencaster. I'm sure he'll be able to fix it.
I'll put a word in with your boss in Pencaster.
And sorry to skip ahead a bit, but in the Postman Pat movie, there are clearly other employees in the Pencaster sorting office. What the hell? Now, you might not think that the movie is canon to the actual show, but the movie acts as if it's canon. So, who's doing Pat's mail jobs in Greendale while he's doing all these special deliveries? Pat constantly says throughout the series,
"We've got post to deliver."
So, who's going to deliver everyone else's post when he isn't in Greendale? He can't just leave the mail where it is and just wait until the mission is accomplished to resume his work. It has to be delivered on time. Or, for that matter, why isn't it the other way around? Why should Pat be the one to do all these special deliveries? Why not a postman from Pencaster? Oh, and don't tell me as if there isn't one. Just look at Pencaster. Loads of houses, lots of cars, a busy railway station. It's too much for just one postman to do all these mail deliveries in 2 towns. It's too much. Pat shouldn't really be doing this, so this series shouldn't really exist. And can you believe that I'm not actually done yet? I've yet to talk about Postman Pat the movie. Yeah, apparently Postman Pat was so popular because, you know, toddlers just love watching shit nowadays. Which isn't true. They actually made a Postman Pat movie in 2013, starring Jim Broadbent, David Tennant, Rupert Grint? No, God, is there gonna be any more Harry Potter actors in the... Oh, Stephen Mangan? Yeah, I've never heard of him. Dr. David Twiggs Tennant McDuck! Why? Now, I must say, the movie isn't 100% awful. There are a few things in this movie that I actually find really decent. The voice acting is pretty good, the songs are really nice to listen to, yes, including Really Happy Postman, and the first 10 minutes of the film actually does feel like the first 2 seasons. Yeah, I'm not joking. It features a nice aerial view of all of Greendale and the villagers, a little remix of the Postman Pat theme, and it features Pat driving around, saying hello to everyone, and delivering letters and parcels in his old van. But every single other aspect of the film is either cringeworthy or stupid. The animation isn't that spectacular, the story is all over the place, Pat is acting completely out of character throughout the whole film, Jess is as annoying as he was in Series 3 onwards, the villain is so obviously evil that it hurts, the robots are so clearly robotic that it makes everyone in Greendale look retarded, Pat suddenly going from Stephen Mangan to Rowan Keaton is ridiculous, and there is so much unsuitable slapstick and unnecessary pop culture references that it gets really annoying.
You will accept the fruit basket! You will accept! You will accept! You will accept!
I'm Simon Cowbell, and you know how to deliver.
Hell, the movie even goes so far as to insult the original series. No, I'm not trying to make the movie sound bad, they literally do it.
We've even got a teleprogram in development with puppets. Who'd watch something like that?
Oh, I don't know. How about, 25 million people? Roughly speaking. If you want to see a full review on this movie, then I'd say go watch the review by Jeffrey Pitts... him. But can you believe that even after the movie didn't really do very well, the main series is still going in 2016? Yeah, there were more SDS episodes released on CBeebies since 2016, with a new Pencaster setting much closer to the sea, a new lighthouse keeper character, and Pat now has a fucking jet plane to deliver mail. I just don't even know anymore. I mean, the show is never going to improve at this point. Especially since the movie made the entire series look like a laughingstock to most people. The stories are still formulaic and repetitive, the show still looks like a toy advertisement, and the writing isn't getting any better. Hey, writers, just making Pat pick up deliveries from Wales and Cornwall doesn't make the writing any better. But I'm really surprised that even after the movie, that the show still isn't in full CGI. Which is weird to me because every single other series has turned into CGI by this point, and I'm sitting here wondering why Postman Pat isn't. I mean, they clearly have the technology to use full CGI. Half of every single SDS episode features CGI aerial shots of Greendale and Pencaster, or CGI backgrounds from when the characters are driving. So, why are they still using stop motion animation? I mean, not that there's a problem with using stop motion animation, no. But the toddlers would have grown up and have moved on to CBBC by the time you've released a new season. Sorry, I'm just nitpicking by this point. They are clearly running out of story ideas and new material, and I feel that they should just give up and stop before things get way more hectic. And to fill in the gap, maybe they should either put in a different CBB show or a different show with a similar Postman concept, like Mailman Matt? Mailman Matt, and he's proud of that. Just as day is dawning, so early in the morning, his dog chews up the letters in his van. I'm rubbish at this.
Postman Pat, Postman Pat, Postman Pat and his black and white cat. Boom, 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 dee-dum, dum, dee-dum, boom, boom. Rum, bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, ba, bum, bum. Dee, 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 dum, 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 ba-dum, bum, bum, dee, 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 dum, dum. Bum,